Let's go UW. So, Moats, as much as we want to say Canada has improved, at what point does, what's FO? The FO?
Front office.
Front office. Have to say we need more than 18 points per game average, regardless of my opinion on KP. There's too much talent to be this conservative on offense.
I think the front office's response would be, don't focus on the 17-game sample size. You focus on the back half in terms of 2 seasons, pre-bye week, post-bye week. That's what they were going to say. That's how they're going to look at it, because if you look at it that way, those numbers are going to definitely reflect something very different than if you're only focusing on a 17-game stance, where we talked about the context of what was going on in the first half of the season. The front office, they live in the context. They live in the minutia. Media and fans don't live in the context, don't live in the minutia. We personally like to live in the stats, right? Or the highlights, where it's just like, it's easier to just grasp it and just roll with it that way. But when you look at the context on a game in and game out basis, especially first half of the season, 2-6. Second half of the season, 7-2. 4-game winning streak to end the season. 28 points scored in his last game, 2 for 4 in the red zone with a fumble, which would have actually been a touchdown to make it 3 or 4 in the red zone. It's like they focus on that way, because that's how you got to operate at this level. But if you only focus on the stats and only look at it from a 17-game sample size and don't respect the context, what can be very misleading. And that's what we always say about like stats. It's a part of the story, but it's not the full story. But you got to understand how to get that information and where to look for it as well.
Yeah. A lot of people are pulling up the overall season stats right now. And I know we were pretty much worse than almost every offensive category in the first half of the season before the bye.
Absolutely.
Now I'm seeing a lot of stuff like bottom 20, still in that range. But I don't think my eyes were lying.
Nope.
We had a competent NFL offense in the second half of the season. At times, pretty damn good. And I keep bringing up, if you do go game by game and you want to talk about that context, the stats would look even better in the second half. Like, because if you look right now, our points per game, it's like average. I think total offense is average. The best part is the rush yards per game, which is, I think, was 7th or 8th in the league. Those would be even better if we had better player execution in the red zone, or just more critical moment. Like you could bring, I could go ad nauseum game in, go game by game about the different things that happened.
They weren't
Saints game, Najee dropped a touchdown, Matthew Wright missed 2 field goals, Mitch Trubisky threw 3 picks in the Ravens game, Kenny Pickett had an overthrow or 2 in the red zone. In a couple of those games, Deontay dropped a touchdown, Pickens dropped a touchdown, Najee dropped another touchdown. I can't remember what game it was, but yeah, there was all those things happening. And then, okay, we scored, 13 points. Was it 13 in the Raiders game? And then we had 16 in the Ravens game. Put some context into those games as well.
I would agree.
Raiders game, like negative temperatures. We went up against an offense with a Josh McDaniels as an OC. They had Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, all these weapons, and we played better as an offense than them.
For 4 quarters.
Yes. And then Ravens, that's always going to be a tough game. On the road, tough defense. You just try to get the dub. I don't care about style points.
Like we said, if you're looking just at stats, it could be misleading. But if you look at the context, game in and game out basis, like we talk about, it's not hard to see. It's really not. And that's the beauty of it, you know? But everybody has their way of viewing it also. So that's also part of it as well.
But also just the fact we were moving the ball up and down the field at a really good rate.
Like,
really consistently.
I'm with you.